Okay, it's 6 o'clock. Time to start the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for November 12th, 2024. Roll call.
Ms. Orich?
Here.
Mr. Unger?
Here.
Mr. Waller?
Here.
Thank you, Board. I would request a motion to go into executive session in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G3, to discuss pending or imminent litigation, and in accordance with 121.22G1, to discuss compensation of public employees or officials.
Motion we go into executive session for the reasons detailed.
I'll second.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Okay, we will be back at 7. Thank you. Okay, it's 7 o'clock. Actually, 7:01. Regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for November 12th.
Madam President, I have a motion, please.
I think we have to roll call back in first.
Okay, yeah, we're roll call.
November 12th, 2024, and we can do roll call. Our fiscal officer stepped out, and so
Trustee Ulrich?
here.
Trustee Unger?
Here.
Trustee Waller?
Here. So I'd like to make a motion. Our fiscal officer is playing injured tonight, this evening. He's ill, so I'd like to motion that Mr. Weckbach temporarily take over the duties of fiscal officer for purposes of recording the minutes until he can make it back.
I'll second Matt's motion.
Hearing no discussion, I'll call the roll. Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Okay, is there anything to...
Nothing to report from executive session.
Okay, let's stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, for our moment of meditation, with the holiday season coming up here, let us be thankful, gracious, and generous. And let us be kind and tolerant of each other, and we pray for health and happiness to us all. Thank you. Okay, we have approval of minutes.
Yes, Board, I assume you have the minutes from the October 4th trustee meeting? Let me check my calendar here real quick. 22nd trustee meeting.
I motion we approve the minutes of the October 22nd trustee meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion?
None from me.
None for me?
None?
Trustee Orich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The first item tonight is a presentation by Fire Chief Alan Walls swearing in a new employee.
Good evening to the board and all of you in attendance.
Good evening, Chief.
Tonight, I'm here to swear in our newest career firefighter, Nate Scherer. Nate is a 2022 graduate of Elder High School. He attended the Colerain recruit class in 2023, which he successfully graduated from. He's currently enrolled in Cincinnati State Colerain campus paramedic class with a graduation date of 2025. And tonight, he will be penned by his father, Scott. And at this time, I will let Nate introduce his family. All right, thank you.
Congratulations, and thank you for being a part of our team.
Welcome aboard. And if you could make it through 2 years of my classes, I think you could make it through anything. So hopefully I've prepared you well for this. When they said you'll follow the Constitution, I'm like, yeah, and he knows what that is because he was in my government class. Congratulations, and I know that I speak for all the staff and students at Elder Altiora. We're proud of you. Thank you so much.
Can I ask if you wore that elder shirt because of him? Yes.
Well, he actually teaches at Elder too.
Oh,
so
you do?
yeah.
Oh my goodness, I did not know that.
Yep.
That's great. I'd like to talk to you after the meeting.
Yeah, we got to find out some
learn
stuff
a lot.
on that. Yeah.
Well, congratulations and welcome to our group. So.
I'm assuming that's why they're here.
Well, as soon as they'll probably all leave, but you don't have to stay either if you don't want to.
Oh, no, they need to stay for the presentation of the
Oh, the next one. Yeah.
the
Oh,
budget book and
oh, the budget
strategic
book.
plan.
It's so
Nobody
exciting.
leave.
You'll be on pins and needles. You'll want to come back next time.
No, well, congratulations.
I think they are welcome to step out for some photos if
I
that
wasn't
is
kidding.
what they desire. You all are more than welcome to stay for the budget book if you would like, but
And as they leave, thank you to the sheriffs for sharing your son with us. We're going to take good care of him, and he's with the best in the state of Ohio.
And thank you for all the other EMS people that are leaving for supporting him.
all right, next up on the agenda is the presentation of the 2025 Strategic Plan and Budget Book, and Jeff McElravy is going to walk us through some of the keys here. There's a link to this digital book on our website in the agenda packet. When you click that link, this page that you'll see on the screen here comes up. Excuse me. This is the table of contents for the book, so I'm going to do some just quick high levels where these are all links to additional documents where you get more information. So there's background information that goes through our full budget message, how our organization is structured, and so on. We go through each of the 6 goals. These are goals that you all adopted in 2023 to cover the 2024 through 2026 budgets, so we're right in the middle of that. We've got specific budgetary documents here on the right. Capital for vehicles and equipment is still in progress. That's why that's grayed out. And then further below, there's actually deep dives into each department. Again, some of these items are drafts, so we typically have budget videos. Those are coming and will be ready by our December meeting. That just kind of overview what is going to happen in each specific department over the coming year and budget cycle. With that, I'll turn the floor to Jeff to take us deeper into a couple of select areas.
Good evening, Board, and thank you, Jeff. So I think probably the best place to get started is to take a look at the sort of 30,000-foot view, and that's the all funds budget summary. So this is by fund type, and you can see that the revenues that are forecasted for 2025 come in just above $44 million, and the expenses come in at just over $52 million. What we are doing is strategically spending down fund balance in order to be able to meet the objectives of the board and those strategic initiatives that Jeff was referring to earlier. We are tweaking those initiatives a little bit to reflect a new financial reality in terms of where we're going to be over the next 5 years, which we'll get to here in a moment. But if you were to, toggle back and forth between the revenues and expenses, you can see the fund balance that's being spent down for public safety. Of course, that is in the police fund as a result of what has happened with the last 2 levies. And then also, we're getting to the point in the fire levy where we always talk about the bow tie effect for property tax levies, the way they're structured in Ohio. We collect more on the front end of the levy than we need, and then end up using that on the back end of the levy when expenses have increased, due to inflation and other costs. So we are at that point where we're at that middle point, that X, and we're about to start spending down the other side of the fire levy. For the general fund, we're spending down fund balance to provide support to the police department and also take care of some sidewalk projects. And in public services, the spend down there is on the road program. So that is where we're looking, or how we're looking for 2025. Jeff, if you wouldn't mind taking us to the long-range financial forecast. So the what we do every budget cycle is build out what we expect the revenues and expenses to be for the township in every fund for a 5-year period. And the good news is that for the vast majority of our funds, we're in pretty good shape. There is, of course, an issue with the police fund. We're running about a $4 million structural imbalance in the budget for each year as a result of the failed levies. This budget pulls from a number of sources in order to address that shortfall for 2025. But that's not the kind of thing that the township is going to be able to do indefinitely. There's some decisions that we're going to need to make in terms of identifying new revenue sources or looking at controlling costs in order to get that fund back into structural balance in the out years of this budget. We do have time, but that is something that we're going to have to address. Jeff, could you scroll up a little bit to, yes, this section here. So just touching on the narrative here for the major funds over the 5-year window. The general fund provides operating support for the development department, the community center, and parks, has for a long time, and will continue to do so. As I mentioned, also providing operating support to the police department this year. We are going to be spending down fund balance, and as I mentioned, the general fund does not have the capacity to continue to do that indefinitely. Our largest funds are our fire district and our EMS fund, and of course those go for fire and EMS. We are 4 years, well, 3 years into a 5-year levy, and this budget also reflects new EMS revenue that we expect as a result of billing for EMS runs for automobile crashes that involve non-residents of the township. This board has been challenging staff to come up with new ways to find new revenue to help stretch our operating levies as much as possible, and this is a great example of what the command staff and the fire and EMS department are doing to try to meet that challenge. We talked a fair bit about the police fund, and then with the road funds, through a combination of the 4 roads funds and also the general fund, the 5-year forecast is projected to fund the road program at $1.9 million per year.
And while this maybe hits on some of the high level, to kind of summarize what the direction looks like from a budgetary standpoint, the general fund is helping to offset costs in our police department for next year. The capacity in the general fund does not exist at a level that we're going to be able to do that indefinitely and in perpetuity. So there is still a funding challenge that is either on the revenue or expense side related to police expenses. In the fire fund, because of some of the different things that they have done, including those revenue sources that Jeff just mentioned, they are not looking at having a levy need now until 2028, which is positive. That's about 2 more years to the positive from where we had it forecasted last year. And the road funds, we've got remaining stable with stable funding to the road program at $1.9 million. Now, something that doesn't get borne out in these presentations publicly are some of the behind the scenes. Through this process, there has been a number of iterations, a lot of pushback internally with staff where we've had to make some difficult cuts, recognizing that we've got some larger challenges on the horizon. A few of those cuts are programmatic. Probably the largest singular program that we have recommended for a cut is the summer camp program. So that is not included to be funded in this budget. There were some tweaks made to the general fund portion of the road budget. we are still funding the full row budget at 1.9 million, but it is not at the same level from the general fund in terms of operating support. And then we've had to go back and make numerous cuts in the Parks Department for different capital and operating needs in our parks. And so those are kind of the high level things where there has been some pushback. Another area that we made some deep cuts is on capital. The police department was on pace for replacing approximately 8 cruisers per year. With this budget, we're looking to, initially we cut all those dollars out of the police department fund, and we're looking to fund those through other sources in our various departments. But replacing 4 cruisers is the number that we're looking at in this budget. So those are just some of the more nuanced details that are in this that aren't necessarily borne out in these pictures and images, but wanted to leave that there for any questions or comments for the board.
That's where you're at.
Yep.
Okay.
That's where we're
And,
at.
and you mentioned that through some attrition, we're reducing staffing in the.
We have, yep. Yep, we are down, I believe is it 57 or 56? 55 officers right now. At the start of the year, we were authorized to be at 69, so we were at 55 sworn officers to cover the 43 square miles of Colerain Township.
And where were we at when this first came up last year? We talked about the last time we were at that level. Was it 2019?
So in 2019, we were at 56 officers. Since that time, we've added some school positions that are required. And so
Those are 100% funded by the school
100%
district.
funded by the school. But what that means is because those positions are funded by the school, we actually have far fewer total officers on the street in terms of patrolling beats today than we did in 2019.
Right.
So lower headcount all around.
And if people have questions about this, when do you expect this to come back at our next meeting?
Yeah, so we are required by the state of Ohio to adopt a budget in some way, shape, or form by December 31st. Right now, we only have one more meeting on the books, and that is December 10th. And so that is when I'm anticipating the board to contemplate passing a resolution that would fund our services for the next calendar year.
So if anybody has any questions or comments, contact one of the trustees or contact you or Mr. McElreevy.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you again for all your hard work.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Okay, now we're going to move on to citizens' address, and I saw a couple people with pieces of paper over there. I'm going to give you the rules of our citizens' address. You get to speak for 5 minutes. You get to speak, you can ask questions, but we won't answer. We don't want to take up your 5 minutes. And also that we just are putting a public statement out there that please be aware that the statements and opinions provided by the members of the public during citizens' address do not necessarily represent the views or positions of Colerain Township, nor are they guaranteed for factual accuracy. The township does not vet, fact check, pre-approve, or review any commentary prior to citizens' address. So that's our spiel for that. And do you have your sheets that you want to come up? Did you have one of these? I thought I saw you guys with some of the papers. No? Okay. That was them? Okay. Okay, so then Stephen Smith, would you like to come up? You're smiling over there, so. Come on, we'd like to hear what you have to say. So would all the millions of people watching us tonight.
Thank you for coming out.
Okay, just state your name and address.
Stephen Smith is 2581 Wilson. I'll just call him based off of police.
Stop. Time.
Yeah, police. So
It's not on. No. Okay.
all right. So I'll talk to you some. I talked to a police officer here not too long ago, and he was just disrespectful.
Who was? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know his name or anything, but like I had a couple questions for a school assignment for college,
Okay.
and he just like he wouldn't shake my hand or anything. And I feel like as a young citizen, that doesn't give him a good look, or any police officers. That's all I was just saying.
Okay, we appreciate hearing from you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll get my glasses on. So now,
Welcome. Thank you for coming.
Okay, just speak your name and address, please.
Sanam, 12127 Birds Hill Drive.
Okay.
This is my first time. I don't really know what to talk about. I ain't got nothing, but he wanted to talk about fentanyl or something, like the drug crisis that's facing Ohio. And like a lot of people are suffering, and I want to see like what's the people and like the people who got like the power to do something about it doing. So yeah.
Well, are you finished? I don't want to take up your time. Our chief, we have wonderful statistics on how much fentanyl we have collected, and they have, you have a whole list of all the different grams of all the different drugs. We have that on our police report, so please see our chief or any of the other, there's no other policeman. He'd be happy to talk to you or call us tomorrow.
And I'll put in a plug for the police here in Colerain Township and Fire and EMS for their program with the response team that we developed before you and I were here, 2015, 2014, that deals with a response team that would then go out and respond to folks that, and this would be their choice as they went to court, respond to folks that were trying to get clean from opioids and things like that. So we found that it really increased success rates in rehabilitation and things like that, to the point where I think a lot of Hamilton County adopted that program. I know that fire and police have talked to other areas in the state, and I think it's been recognized nationally as well, if I'm correct. Yeah, and it reduced. And honestly, when I was first given this presentation, hey, we're going to reduce these rates by responding and sending this group out, I was a hard sell on this because I grew up, if you did something wrong, you went to prison for it, and that model wasn't working with opioid addiction. And the chief's predecessor, Chief Denny, sat me down and said, "Let me tell you why I think this is going to work." And I think he hit a hard sell with a lot of people with it, and he sold it, and he was convincing, and it's been pretty. It's been more successful than some of the other things we've done, and to the point where a lot of people have copied it, and that's the ultimate form of flattery when other people adopt your system, and it's been fantastic. So we've tried to think outside the box and use creative ways to try to solve those problems, and I think that we're constantly evolving in how we solve those issues. But I appreciate your concern with this, because I know that it's something that folks in the 18 or 16 to 30 range are most affected by. I think it's the leading cause of death for males 18 to 25 or 18 to 30 is overdoses. So it's something that you guys have to deal with every day. And there's not a person in this administration and the whole building that's not well aware of that. And we appreciate your feedback on that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I do believe one of the statistics that Chief gave us one time, they collected enough fentanyl at one of our meetings to actually kill 57,000 people. It was one of those, how many grams, and they've collected quite a bit, so I wish I had that statistic in front of me. All right, now we go to administrative reports.
Yes, and to kick off administrative reports will be Chief Alan Walls from the Fire Department.
Welcome back, Chief.
Are you golfing out in the foyer there?
I do free babysitting on the side, so I was taking care of a couple of children out there. Actually, I was winding them up and sending them home. Not sure if the father appreciated that, but it was fun nonetheless. And I broke a sweat doing it.
I know, I watched you.
So, thanks for having me again. So, incident activity for October 2024. We had 762 EMS incidents. There were 200 fire incidents. We made 30 calls into the Springfield Township Pleasant Run EMS contract area and 1 call into the West College Hill Golfway EMS contract area. 2 fires of a significant nature. We had a $52,500 loss in the 2600 block of Royal Glen. We had a $2,000 loss at 3500 Springdale Road. That ties into then our reported fire loss. So reported fire loss was $54,500, but property value saved was $4.4 million. So the $2,000 loss in the 3,500 block of Springdale Road was at a business. So the prompt response, quick arrival, quick investigation, they were able to quickly locate the source of the fire and extinguish it and keep that business open. We have a 90.55% save rate then for 2024. So our response time for arrival of the first unit was 5 minutes and 28 seconds. First unit on the scene was 67.96%, and it looks like my stuff didn't copy over. Our average response time there is correct. And that is my report for tonight, unless there's any questions.
Chief, what is the status of as people know, we are constructing 2 new fire stations, one on Generation Drive off of Struble Road and one down just north of Galbraith Road.
That's correct.
And how are those coming along?
They're coming along fantastic. So if you've been by Station 102 here recently, the roof and siding is on. They're framing the administrative side out, and we're looking at occupancy probably sometime in March of 2025. Station 26 is about a month behind Station 102, so we're looking at probably April of 2025 for Station 26. Couple bumps in the road, however, we've overcome those, and a lot of progress being made in getting these done and getting them open.
And it's good to be at that point before the bad weather sets in. We can start doing a lot of internal work once they're under roof.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next step is get the windows and the doors in, and then they can start doing drywall work.
Great.
I believe the IT director was on site today to identify where all the drop points and access points are going to be for all of the internet technology and different things like that through the buildings. And so it's humming along, and we're looking forward to temporary occupancy in March, hopefully fully ready to go by April, because there's a transition time frame that we have to go through too.
Chief, I was over there with color swatches and they sent me away. I don't know what the story is with that.
Were the colors blue? Is that the problem?
Purple?
Yeah, they were purple. They said
Okay.
you must go away now.
We use neutral colors. So.
Do we? I understand that 2 levies in our neighborhood, not our neighborhood, but surrounding neighborhoods, failed. Do we anticipate any impact on Colerain with those 2 fire levies?
That will depend, quite frankly, on what changes they may make with the failure of those levies in terms of staffing.
So we're talking Miami.
So Miami Township to
White-
the southwest and Whitewater Township to the west, both failed levies.
Yeah, and the difficulty is, as a county, we rely heavily on automatic aid, and so there is likely going to be some circumstances where different folks might be the first unit called in, may or may not be as close because of staffing levels and challenges of neighbors.
Do one or both of those have water rescue?
So they both do.
I thought so.
Obviously, we have the premier team, but
Right.
Obviously.
So does that mean they'll call us for? Is that going to impact their water rescue at all? Is it?
it could possibly as well. So, the next steps will be for their administration as well as elected officials to make some decisions about where they're going to go. I can't speak specifically about things, but I'll give you examples. So Miami Township also contracts with Cleves, Addison, and North Bend. Cleves didn't put an additional levy on for their portion, but North Bend and Addison passed a small levy that they have. So, but Miami Township as a whole didn't pass. So what that means overall remains to be seen, but I would expect that there will be some impacts.
So does that free up Addison, North Bend to perhaps pursue other agreements with another? I mean,
Can't speak specifically
well,
for
specific, but generally
but-
would that?
could be a possibility.
Okay. And Cleves seems to not. They just seem to get other people's services on everything.
Yeah, so Cleves, just a few short years ago, had their own fire department for any number of years, and then that fire department was dissolved, and they contracted with Miami Township.
And their police, they use Hamilton County, I think.
Correct. They just dissolved their police department here in the last couple of years and now contract with the sheriff's department.
And all 3 of those are villages, right? They're not even cities. I think Cleves is the largest of the 3.
Correct. Yep.
Which is interesting because most of the levies that were on the ballot actually, I think, more passed than failed, except those two.
It's been a hard time, let's face it. Milford passed, Goshen Township passed, but that was the second go-round for Goshen Township, and that was a renewal. So it failed in the spring and was back on the ballot here in November, and it passed. But across the state, it's been hit and miss as far as fire levies go here in the last.
Okay. I know Milford doesn't have a real positive history with levies in general. In Goshen, I think theirs got taken down by the storm, so.
Yeah, and there's been some misinformation there. Their levy in no way, shape, or form is to replace that building. That building is being replaced by funds outside of their operating budget, some being state monies and so on and so forth. So,
In fact, it was ground, they were already hit it built by the time the election rolled around, I think, right? Or they'd broken ground or something?
they demolished the old building and broke ground here in the last couple of weeks.
Okay,
They're going on 2 years without their main fire station.
that's incredible. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to get a state of those around us here and how that impacts us.
All right. Thank you.
All right, up next will be Police Chief Ed Cordy.
Glad to see you here.
Thank you.
Welcome back, sir.
Good evening. For the month, the police department responded to 3,756 calls. It's 121 calls per day on average. We're continuing to trend a little bit higher this year compared to last year, and probably in the neighborhood of about 46,000 calls for the end of the year. We conducted 263 traffic stops, handled 154 crash reports, and made 88 arrests. For the month, 15 OVI arrests, which is about 2, maybe even 3 times more than our usual month activity for those. So that's quite a few on DUI arrests. We had 4 uses of force, 2 of which were takedowns, 2 of which were OCs, 2 vehicle pursuits, and did not have any internal investigations. Again, no rhyme or reason to anything. The busiest day of the week was Thursday, followed by Wednesday. The steady hours remain between about 8 a.m. and 11 p.m., but with the busiest hour of the day, for some reason, was 6 a.m. Code enforcement for the month, 399 inspections, 47 violations were closed. We had 186 contacts reference to rental registration, and we're up to about 784 of those contacts made with people over the year so far. Property maintenance violations of 10, 2 illegal dumping investigations, 22 abandoned vehicle investigations with 5 vehicles resulting in towed, 17 parking complaints, with interacting with the public on 38 of those just for code enforcement. The impact team conducted 13 targeted traffic stops with resulting in 14 felony charges, 3 misdemeanor charges. For the month, they seized 21.1 grams of meth, 12 grams of fentanyl, 36.3 grams of cocaine, had 2 canine deployments, assisted the road with 60 details, and had 120 hours of investigative follow-ups on tips, which resulted in 4 search warrants being conducted. We're currently at 55 officers, as we talked about earlier, which leaves us at about 3 vacancies prior to even starting to hire for the COPS grant. So we're looking at a total of 7 vacancies as of now. Just 2 things to communicate for the month. On December 3rd, we're going to have our annual Shop with a Cop event. This year, Myers allowed us to also do a toy drive and non-perishable item drive at the same time. That'll be conducted from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. while we're still on scene at Meyer at that time. We'll have our truck and trailer up there, and hopefully we'll be able to bring in some goods. And also, as you'll see on the consent for the later on tonight, we received we had a donation request through the Haverkamp Foundation, and we received everything we could possibly ask for from them. We got a amount of $19,750, which is going to allow us to purchase a new dual-purpose canine for Officer Brian Huntington, and he's going to go through 2 various additional training courses that they are completely covering for us as well. So that's what that donation is as a result of. Later this year, next year, we'll have a retirement ceremony here for Teo. He'll be 9.
Wow.
Any questions for me?
You want to talk about Stuff the Cruiser?
Yeah, right now, we have the event going on. We'll end just before Thanksgiving, but we have we used to do a cruiser, then we start filling multiple cruisers. So now we have the trailer parked out, and we're filling that up. And we like to do it right before Thanksgiving because the local pantries tend to get, they need to get restocked. So right after Thanksgiving, we take them there, and we usually are able to completely restock, if not one, if possibly 2 pantries in the area.
How's it going?
It's on par with.
On par?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, everything's going well with it, and
Good.
it's always a good thing when we can fill up a whole pantry with just donations that have been made.
Awesome.
In the other question, have we, last time I talked, and it's kind of maybe getting to the cold point now, have we made any kind of arrests in the park damage?
No,
Okay.
no, it's really difficult without some cameras
Right.
in the area, and even maybe almost like if vehicles do go in and out of there, just
Yeah.
even the technology that's available to track the vehicles.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
Good for you, Chief.
All right, the next report will be delivered by Assistant Administrator Mays.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
All right, for our public services vehicle counts, year-to-date for Clipper Park, we're just almost to 70,000 vehicles for the year. So we were at 69,948. And then for Heritage Park, we're at 59,538. And Colerain Park is at 57,266 vehicles for the year. A lot of these vehicle counters, I know for sure Clifford and Heritage, they were broken for a substantial amount of time till we got them replaced. So our numbers are still looking better than pre-pandemic numbers, which is encouraging for us. That means, we're back into that normalization, but we're still seeing that higher visitor count. So that's encouraging. All right, the bags of litter, we are up to 1,700 even, it looks like. Last month we were at 1,517. So that's almost 200 bags that we collected just in this past month. Any other questions for me? Thank you.
Thanks, Tiff.
All right, next report will be delivered by Development Director Miller.
Welcome, Mr. Miller. Congratulations on the half marathon. Yeah.
Thank you, David.
All right, so zoning certificates for the month of October, we had a total of 44. 2 were withdrawn, 2 were refused, and so we ended up with a total of 42 that we issued. Obviously, the construction season's dropping and people are doing less, and so that's just the way it's going to be. We, not too many months ago, we were at, I think, 96. So this is a little bit less than half of that, but plenty of other projects that are ongoing. Noteworthy, 4 of those were for new single-family homes. So that's good news. 6 solar tech projects. And then the breakdown of that, 44 were 12 commercial and 32 residential. And just note that the old Beavis Elementary site, the villas at Taylor Glen, has 99 landominiums, and that is rocking and rolling. They're moving lots of dirt, and I think, Kathy, you mentioned you were
I
out there.
drove by. It looks beautiful up there. So, yeah, looking good.
Yeah, so they're just moving dirt and site work, and also moving closer and closer to starting construction. So
Yeah, they got the drive in. They got parking in. They're moving. So hopefully get a lot more applications.
another 99 homes. Any questions? All right.
Thank you.
All right, and the final report this evening will be from Communications Specialist Helen Tracy Naren on our good news update. And hopefully I can get the technology to work this time.
Welcome.
Hello. Good evening. I get the privilege to share some good news happening in Colerain. So the last time I was up here, I showed you several earned media clips, and earned media is a term that means our partners thought so much of our ideas and what was happening in the township that they wanted to cover it. This is not paid promotion or anything. It's things that they enjoyed, they liked, and they wanted to celebrate about Colerain Township. So last month I showed you some about mental health support from our fire department, some local lifeguards who saved a man's life at the YMCA, and several other just really heartwarming clips. This time we have kind of a similar theme, and I'll let the video play.
It's like these dogs are everything to me. They're like family to me. And the fact that somebody would do this, I just don't understand.
And as you can see, they're adorable. Now at 5:30, video you'll only see right here on Fox 19 Now, showing someone breaking into a home in Colerain Township to steal puppies.
It happened Sunday, and the homeowner tells us she's a local breeder. Today, our Brenda Ordonez speaking with her when there was a break in the case. She joins us now live.
Hopefully it's good news, Brenda.
Courtney, Rob, it's great news. I'm happy to report that the puppies are back home and safe. An individual who found the puppies returned them back to their owner here at the Colerain Police Department parking lot earlier today. Now, the puppies seem to be in good health. You're watching the moment two Colerain officers approach Kara, a local breeder, and an unknown individual in the police station parking lot. The individual just handed Kara the box she now holds, containing 2 French bulldogs that were stolen from her home on Sunday.
To help teenage drivers stay safe.
So first story there, you saw some puppies that were stolen from a home, reunited. Fantastic story.
Angels and was established after 2 Northwest high school students were killed in a crash on Colerain Avenue. This was back in 2007. Right now, 5 police departments already participate in the program. We're told the curriculum covers different topics each month about safety on the roads, and they can hear from police, firefighters, trauma nurses, and family members of crash victims. Colerain Police hoping to expand this program to reach even more students.
We have no problem meeting with them and discussing the curriculum. And if they have a group of students who would like to take up and be in charge of that organization, the Driving Angels organization at that high school level, we can help them and walk them through to how to spread the word about driving safety within their high school.
Falls can lead to serious injuries, but they are preventable.
Yeah, and that's where we have some good news for you today. We're joined by community paramedic Kelsey Gehring and Assistant Fire Chief Will Mueller from Colerain Township Fire and EMS to share some simple life-saving tips to help older adults stay safe and independent. And great to have you both here.
Thank you.
Important topic. What are the early signs that someone is maybe at risk for falling?
Because when we talk about early signs, really the early sign is age. However, we can't say that falls are a normal part of the aging process. When we talk about age, we talk about age-related changes that increase your risk for a fall, right? So when we break these down, and at Colerain Fire and EMS, when we look at our fall protocols and the programming that we have, we break down our risks into 3 categories, and those are environmental, medical, and social.
But Chelsea, what home changes or devices can we install to maybe help prevent falls?
Sure. So there's devices can be so many different things. It can be our eyeglasses and making sure that we're keeping our prescription up to date. It can be our footwear. You should have shoes on inside and out of sight of your home to keep maintain that stability, maintain your balance, things like that. Additionally, you can use walkers, canes, grab bars, bed rails, raised toilet seats, and make sure you have like extra lighting in the house. Are all things that you can do to make your house just a little bit safer.
So a lot of good things there, as you can see from programs from police and fire especially. Some things that are not included, we had a public service award for our office manager, Glenna Carter. She was given that during our last trustee meeting from the ASPA. We were also awarded the most resilient community from Hamilton County EMA. And we recently had some of our female firefighters participate in an all-female class called Fierce from Crash Course Village. And so this had women from all across the country met in Dayton, Ohio to take these very important training skills. So we're very honored to have representation there as well. I did want to mention a couple of things upcoming. We do have an article from the Inquirer highlighting our Amazing Shop with a Cop event, so be on the lookout for that. And then something happening in public services to be aware of too. We have the Blanchetta basketball courts are going to be dedicated in honor of late firefighter Doug Eikens. So that's coming up in early December, so keep an eye on Colerain.org for that. And then this weekend, we have Colerain Give Back Day. So if you're inclined to help your community, now's the time to roll up your sleeves, get out there and help collect brush, help build stairs. We're partnering with people working cooperatively again. This is our 9th year, I believe. And we usually get about 200 people, 200 volunteers, so sure to be another good one.
Nice.
Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Awesome, good. Keep up the good news, good work.
And then to round things out, I just had sort of 2 updates. Fairfield Church in the Nazarene, which is located at Old Colerain and East Miami River Road, recently unveiled a disc golf course, which they said is open to the public. So I thought that was worth sharing along for anybody who may be listening or an avid disc golfer. And then to build on Helen's last comment there about Give Back Day, Thanksgiving is coming up, and what better way to give back to your community than to be a neighbor helping your neighbors? And so encourage anyone and everyone to show up on Saturday and get placed on a team and go out and help neighbors throughout Colerain that just need an extra hand to whether it's spruce up their yard or paint something or put in a grab rail or whatever else that might be. It's a great opportunity just to share some joy and help others. And that would conclude my administrative report.
Okay, then now we're going to go to the trustee reports. Who wants to go?
I can go.
Okay. You go.
All right, a couple of kind of almost like disparate items here. First of all, I love when our representative from our Gross Beck Library is here. Thank you so much for coming. I've never seen a library branch so involved in the community, and I appreciate that a whole lot. Thank you so much. The next one is not as easy to say, but congratulations to LaSalle in their victory over the Elder Panthers several weeks ago. Yes, on the last second pick 6. Yep, congratulations. I will just say that Elder did win the freshman game, but that's not a whole lot of solace in that, but we'll see you again in about 3 years. So thank you to everyone that voted. I know that, presidential elections, we tend to get a higher turnout, and I just think I consider, I'm a nerd, but I consider the election day a day of celebration, in exercising our rights. Now it's become like a month, and I voted early because I was actually out of town for election day, but simply thank you for all those that voted. No matter who you voted for, certainly your voice is important. For all those that organized the Veterans Day event, just another fantastic year for Veterans Day event. And every year I leave with a different kind of like a different story of something that happened. And this year at the event, somebody came up to me and said, and I assume it was his first time of being at the event, and he came up and he said, "This means so much to me. Thank you. I finally feel like I'm home." A Vietnam veteran, and it just struck me as wow. There are very few jobs that you can make so much difference in somebody's life with something so simple as that, and it's something I'll probably never forget. And we also had, and I don't know whose idea it was to invite him, the new Hamilton County Veteran Commissioner was in attendance, and he said a few words, and I followed up with him actually several times since then, and he's interested in doing a lot with Colerain Township because we have a larger percentage than most townships of veterans. And I had a chance to talk to Chris Green, and I'm like, hey, is this guy, because they were in the news in negative reasons a lot, I think about a year and a half ago, and he goes, this guy's the real deal. He's done a lot for veterans already. And it was so, to tie it back up with Mr. Green, it was so, it meant a lot to hear that he lives in Colerain Township, the Veterans Commissioner, and he made the decision to move here when he saw, and this was Chris Green's idea from the very beginning, when he saw the veterans banners. He said, when I drove down Colerain and for the first time saw the veterans banners, he said, I knew I was home, and I was going to find a house here. And he now lives over in White Oak somewhere. But I thought, wow, what a simple gesture that now we have the county's representative for veterans, and he wants to do some other stuff with veterans here to have a lasting footprint, and that's a really important thing, I think, for the township. So thanks to him, and we do at Elder, we do a mass every year for Veterans Day. They're called the Elder 11. 11 folks that graduated Elder High School that died in the Vietnam War more than any other high school in the state of Ohio. And I invited them out, and we take a section of Glenway Avenue, and by state edict that was signed several years ago, we commemorate it for one of the 11 every year. And he came to that mass and that celebration, and it was certainly fantastic to have him and his wife as guests there. And he got a little idea of, what the county can do if focused on honoring our veterans. Some news from our neighbors down south that impacts us. I see it all the time on social media. Just because it's Colerain Avenue, it's not Colerain. It could be Colerain. It could, for a section, be green. It could be City of Cincinnati. So whether you like or dislike or whatever, hate or love the speed bumps or humps or whatever they're called, that's the City of Cincinnati. It's a little strange to see the yellow barrels in November. I'm usually through with those by September, and it's really snarled up traffic, and I think I take a different route to work every day, but the speed bumps are going in. I think the most valuable thing I heard, and I haven't had a chance to completely, I need to talk to City of Cincinnati, but I've heard it through enough sources that I think it's reality, is that there's finally going to be a light at Shepherd Creek and Colerain, which, oh my gosh, I mean, that's such a bad intersection. It's got that hill and your car rolls backwards, and it's just unbelievable. I'm so happy to hear that. Again, not in Colerain Township, in the City of Cincinnati, but certainly if you're trying to traverse over to the west side, there's about 2 or 3 different ways you can go, and if you want to avoid a lot of traffic, Shepherd Creek's away, if it's not underwater. And if you can, but if you're coming back, you'll never get out left. I've talked to some of the staff of our federal electeds. I'm sick and tired of the bomb threats that hit our schools and the disruption it causes. And it turns out that most of these countries actually receive aid in some form from the United States. And I think that maybe the attitude is right in the country right now that maybe we can get some kind of movement to have a penalty if these countries don't bring these people to justice that are making these false calls, and actually penalize it and take it out of their aid. Even Russia, which a significant amount of calls come from, still gets some form of aid from the United States. I talked to Mr. Weckback about, I sent him a resume today for a January term intern, which seems like a sharp individual. They're going to work on a project free of charge for the whole month of January. Free labor, we love that, and they could do a deep dive. The TIF funds, I just kind of want to review the idea of TIF funds. TIFs TIFs are used by many different townships in many different ways. When I first ran for election 5 years ago, the first term, I'm like, gosh, we need to use these. We need to get more TIFs. We hardly had any TIFs. And again, the political environment became right that we started using them in Colerain Township. One of the things that Mr. Unger insisted upon, and I thought was a good idea, is that at the top, we reimburse the schools. We give them schools, and I think that we've all three of us been of like mind about that we not leave them out in the cold. But TIF money doesn't mean a tax break for the corporation or the company that builds there, the commercial property that builds there. It doesn't mean they're going to pay less taxes. It just relabels what they are, what they're called, to pilots, payments in lieu of taxes. There are some townships that will use the pilots to actually build infrastructure that will help benefit that business that locates there. our position almost uniformly on every single TIF, I think except one, is we're going to use those pilots to reduce the taxpayer's burden and pay for things that taxpayer funds would normally pay for. So when you see discussion that the corporations are getting a break, they're not. They're not getting a break. It's wrong. That is incorrect. And I was on the phone one day this month for 2.5 hours about this to one of our news agencies, saying, "What are you doing?" The way it was reported, and I think we moved a minor miracle because they redid the report. I don't think I've ever seen that, because it was they needed to get the facts straight on it. But they could be used to benefit a local corporation, but in our case, we're not doing that. We're using it to benefit the taxpayers because we recognize some of the things that Mr. McElravy presented up front here with the budget. We recognize that we have that hole to fill, and we're going to fill it with a payment in lieu of taxes, which can go, most of the time it's a 15-year payment. Why does the county do that? The county takes the money that might go to the MRDD or the zoo fund, and they say, hey, we want you to have this as a tool to bring in more development. And they're willing to forego that because the difference of the undeveloped to the development property increases so much that they figures in year 16 to 100 or whatever that they're going to increase their tax receipts, and it will benefit them in the long range. So I'm more than willing to take them up on that offer and use it to fill some of our gaps. And that's been our plan for that. Last thing, it has nothing to do with anything, but I now believe that, I actually have this written down in my notes, the Tulsa King has now lapped Yellowstone as the best show on TV, so. Well, what are all the groans? I mean, everything can't be serious.
Shocking first episode for Yellowstone. Can't compare.
The Tulsa King, it's Sylvester Stallone, man. Thank you so much.
Mom, I realize you're watching, and now there's apparently somebody else who knows about that show. You asked me to drop you off the other night at my sister's house so you could watch it because it's not on your cable package. And apparently Matt knows about it too, so you must have been talking to him, Mother.
And he is in love with Rip. His screensaver and his cup is
Anyway.
all Rip, so.
Yep.
I promise I'll be shorter than Matt, Kathy. Anybody that drives up and down Colerain Avenue, one of our new Wawas is underway with construction. There's a construction fence around the Wawa that is going to be at Struble and Colerain. And the Cly buildings that have been there forever are both down, and there's construction activity going on there. So hopefully they make it through the winter okay, and we should be seeing that new Wawa, which is a gas station, high-end. For anybody that wasn't here last year when those discussions were coming up, it's a chain of high-end gas station convenience store restaurants that are primarily on the East Coast and down into Florida. I want to say the Cincinnati area, there's about 15 of them planned, including a couple in Fairfield, Eastgate, 2 in Colerain, and a number of other places.
Liberty Township, yeah.
Liberty Township. I give out my phone number at all the meetings. If somebody needs something, it's 513-404-3057. A couple of the calls I got was from a observant citizen and I want to thank Tiffany and the Public Works for getting this corrected. So it's been a while since we've had a meeting. There was an issue with the railings over at Colerain Park, and thank you for getting that attended to. There was a motorist, please stay on the road. Don't be in people's yards running over our Welcome to Colerain signs on Blue Rock Road. Public Works got over there right away and pulled that twisted up channel post with sign out, and I guess we're going to get a new one over there on Blue Rock, and thank you for addressing that. Congratulations to the Germania Society. They had a very successful Chris Kindle Mart, and there's just so much good going on in Colerain that you might not hear about. There were thousands of people there, and it was a great event. I actually worked at it for a few hours. Getting back to Matt's comments about the Veterans Dinner, it was a very nice event. Matt failed to mention that was kind of his brainchild a few years ago, and it's really grown into something very nice. So thanks for pushing that along, Matt, and it's just a really nice event. In a couple weeks is a celebration of the 60th anniversary of the Colerain Historical Society on November 20th, and And then congratulations to all the folks that worked on the Kroger remodel. They had a grand reopening November 1st. And I will make a comment about the election last week. Thank you to everyone for behaving. It seems like things went really well. Yes, I take a personal day off from my daytime job, and I worked for the Board of Elections this year. And this year, they try to put a member of each party on one of the trucks that goes out to collect all the finished ballots. So I was sent out to Springfield Township behind the administration building. We waited there until a little after 9:30 Tuesday night until all the different precincts brought in their sealed ballot bags. We signed everything off. We had them down to the Board of Elections around 10:30, 10:45. It looks like an airport at Christmas down there in Norwood. There's what seems like thousands of sealed blue bags on carts, and 100 people working there. And here in Ohio, we get our elections done, and you have an answer by midnight. I don't think California's 75% done counting their ballots yet. They're a backward civilization out there, and they just can't seem to get it done. Some people like how things turned out. Some people didn't. I stayed up till 3 in the morning to watch the results. But it's just the Board of Elections does a great job, and anybody who's had any lack of confidence in our elections here in Ohio, I can tell you, at the very least here in Hamilton County, they are very well done, and I'm pleased to do that kind of work. And I've got something I'll need to ask you about after the meeting, Chief Cordy, about a citizen issue with a citizen that needs some attention, and then I'll have something to ask you about after the meeting also about our policy book. So thank you, Kathy.
Okay. It was a beautiful day to work the polls. Lots of people coming out. I did see a lot of veterans caps, and I did ask if they're coming to the dinner, and they said didn't hear about it. So we're going to find more ways to get more veterans, because it's over 10% of our population is veterans, and I would like to get a lot more of them there next year. And it was a wonderful event again. Matt was our keynote speaker, did a wonderful job, and thank you for everybody else that worked and volunteered for that event. And before I forget, I want to wish a happy Thanksgiving to everyone. And this Thursday at 6 o'clock is the graduation of our 49th Citizens on Patrol. And you're welcome to come here and cheer them on. And some of the citizens, past graduates, actually went out with the police officers on Halloween and gave candy out. And you guys don't get complimented for enough of that, of the PR work you do and how the kids love coming up and being around all you guys. And actually the graduates did a lot too, and they would like to continue, that giving out on Halloween with the police. A couple people that I talked to just loved it. And that is about all I have to say.
Can I just add one thing? So on the Saturday before elections, I took my mother and her neighbor to the Norwood, and the line looked like it was would circle the world 3 times. It actually was only 30 minutes. They were going through, to follow up on what Dan said, fantastic job, 800 voters an hour, and they had 55 people there. In fact, my mom and her neighbor had their little wheelie walker things, and every time they went to sit down, the line would move like 40 feet. So I'm like, go ahead and sit down. Go ahead and sit down. It's going to move.
You don't think it was 2020, there was 80,000 pre-voters, and there was 96,000 this year.
Wow.
And there was 16,000 more people. So that is a lot of people to come through when you think of 55.
Right, and they even offer, and I didn't know this, or I could have saved all this, they even offer curbside voting if you have a handicap placard and stuff. It's just incredible the job that they did. Mm-hmm. It was fantastic. I had the pleasure or not pleasure of being up in Oakland County for the election as a poll observer, and they do things differently in Oakland County, Michigan. I think I like the way we do it in Hamilton County.
Of course we do it better. Okay, so that concludes our trustee report, and we'll go to new business then.
Yep. The first several items of new business will be presented by Police Chief Ed Cordy.
Welcome back, Chief.
Okay, item A, we have a motion to appoint members to the Code Enforcement Review Board, or the CURB. Staff recommends approval of a motion to appoint the following members to the CURB. Gary Henson, which is a reappoint to fill trustee A slot, which will expire December 31st of 2028. Jennifer Baldwin, it's a reappointment to fill the fiscal officer slot and expire at the same time. Then Michelle Ferris will be appointed into the current vacant administrator slot and will expire December 31st, 2026. Recommend adoption of the motion.
I'll motion to appoint the members to the Code Enforcement Review Board, specifically Gary Henson, trustee A slot, expiring December 31st, 2028. Jennifer Baldwin, the fiscal officer slot, expired December 31st, 2028. And Michelle Ferris, to the vacant administrator slot, which will expire December 31st, 2026.
I'll second Matt's motion. No discussion from me.
No discussion.
Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Okay, item B is a resolution declaring nuisance and ordering abatement. There's only one property here. This resolution allows for the removal of uncontrolled vegetation and refuge at this property, and that's 2885 Regal Lane. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I'll motion to to adopt a resolution declaring nuisance and ordering abatement at 2885 Regal Lane.
I'll second.
No discussion.
Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Item C is a resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 9333 Brem Road. Recommend adoption of the resolution, declare and order abatement of this vehicle. It is a 1980 white and red Sterling 5700 with no tag. That's a dump truck. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I motion we adopt a resolution declaring the vehicle located at 9333 Brem Road as a junk vehicle. It's a Sterling, did you say Sterling dump truck?
Second.
Good luck with that one. Do we have, I know we have a tow contract. Do we use somebody else for larger vehicles or?
They can handle it all.
Okay.
It's just two specific ones we would
Is
need
that the
to
one
use.
I can see sitting in the side yard over there?
Yeah, it's right off the road, 10 feet off the road.
Yeah.
Been there
I know
a
what you were
while.
talking about, yeah.
Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Item D, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 3248 Rinda Lane. At this address, there is a 2007 gray Saturn, unknown model, with Ohio plate KDY 2275. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I'll motion to adopt resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle in 3248 Rindle Lane.
I'll second.
No discussion.
No discussion.
Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Item E, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 3191 Deschler Drive. At this address, there is a 1993 green Chevrolet S10 with Ohio plate GLJ 4794, and the second is a 1998 tan Suzuki Vitara with Ohio plate FUF 5743. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I motion we approve the resolution declaring the vehicles located at 3191 Deschler Drive as junk motor vehicles, and calling for their removal.
I'll second.
Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Okay, the next five items are sent to us from the Code Enforcement Review Board. They held a case and a hearing for the below properties. And they passed a motion to recommend the Board of Trustees declare the properties as vacant and resolve that it be registered and fees assessed. So item F, the first address is 2563 Niagara Street. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I'll motion to adopt a resolution declaring properties a vacant registrable property in 2563 Niagara Street.
Second.
No discussion.
Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Item G, resolution declaring a property as a vacant registrable property at 2598 Redford Court. Recommend adoption of this resolution.
I'll motion to adopt a resolution
Repeat
declaring.
the address, please, Chief.
258.
2594 Redford.
Okay, sorry, Matt, I thought
That's
you
right.
said
Said
8.
eight. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll motion to adopt resolution declaring properties a vacant registrable property, 2594 Retford Road.
I'll second it.
Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yep.
Item H, resolution declaring property as a vacant registrable property at 2638 Cranbrook Drive. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I motion we declare 2638 Cranbrook Drive as a vacant registrable property.
I'll second.
Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Item I, resolution declaring a property as a vacant registrable property at 2909 Greenbrook Lane. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I motion we approve the resolution declaring the property at 2909 Greenbrook Lane as a vacant registrable property.
I'll second.
Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Item J, resolution declaring property as a vacant registrable property at 7068 Memory Lane. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I motion we approve the resolution declaring the property as a vacant registrable property at 7068 Memory Lane.
I'll second.
That's been vacant for a while, because I have been over there and seen that.
Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Item K, motion authorizing the Township Administrator to execute an agreement with Leads Online for an investigative database access for $14,055. This is actually, we have both of these items. It's the first, the old system is called Cellhawk, and then we have Leads Online, which is a search database. We reached out to Leads Online. They have a new system, an upgraded system called Nighthawk. And so this is actually just a new quote for something that we were already planning to use. And by bundling the two together, we're actually saving $1,000 off the top. So this is just a new contract that allows us to use the two databases that we already have access to. But by bundling them, we're saving some money. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
Go
ahead, Matt.
A motion to adopt a motion authorizing the Township Administrator to execute an agreement with Leads Online for investigative database access for $14,055.
And I'll second it, and I will have a question. So what type of person would you look up on that? What would that provide if you were searching for someone?
So a lot of that uses just public record databases, and it's tabulated and it's put together, quick access to be able to pull what it pulls from credit union. It pulls from just about almost any public database that you could ever imagine. And it gathers phone numbers, addresses, different things. Nighthawk, when we get search warrants with cell phones, what this does is it helps triangulate GPS coordinates that are locked into the phones that we're able to pull from a search warrant. And it just helps triangulate.
That sounds fairly important to have.
Yes, that's how Capstan was solved. The Capstan murders were using cell phone triangulation.
No other questions?
So why would it pull credit report?
It pulls everything. It just pulls everything for more of not the care whatsoever about what your credit rating is. It's more of the data that's inputted when you apply for applications for various different things that go to the credit reports. So if you're putting in different addresses, you say you moved, or if you provide a different cell phone for your for this credit card application as opposed to a different.
Okay, never saw it looked that way.
So like all kinds of court appearances too would be in there? Or?
We have different databases for that type of thing. It's more of just, it's all just raw data that allows us access to be able to track people down and use information from that.
Okay, see, let me ask this, because I was boom ready, and then you said credit reports, and it kind of red flagged me. You and I tend to have aligning philosophies about this. Are you comfortable with the amount of data that it does pull? Because some of that stuff, I'm like, well, I trust you with it, but I may not trust the next person, kind of deal.
The data that's provided that actually is pulled from these different sources like that, it's nothing more than you could do like a free person finder.
Okay.
And it's just more a comprehensive group. I mean, it's nothing to do nor care about what your actual credit score is, the amount of debt you owe. None of that's really even part of any conversation. It's more of the application process and the true data that's in there about the person.
Because you know me, I'm scared to death of how much data the world has on us, which that's just a spit in the ocean, but I mean a drop in the ocean, but I mean it's scary. But Yeah.
The more access that we have to this type of database, the better off
Gotcha.
the investigations that we're going to be able to conduct.
Okay.
Hearing no other discussion, Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yep. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for making it through there. It's
All right, the next agenda item will be presented by Fire Chief Alan Walls.
welcome back, Chief.
This will be item L. It will be a motion to approve a change order. It'll be change order number 4 for Pepper Construction for fire stations 26 and 102 in the amount of $121,269.62, and we recommend adoption of the motion.
I motion that we approve change order number 4 for Fire Station 26 and 102 for $121,269.62.
I'll second that.
And what is that
I
for?
was just going to ask, what is that for?
So the 4 items here: changes for subcontractor earthwork, changes for permitting fees, bid alternates for extending the walls and living quarters, and extension of the project timeline. And this change order is within the original scope of the project and the original budget.
Okay.
So as far as extending the walls up to the ceiling,
correct,
will the, and you might not know the answer to this, but I think I asked Jeff about this last week when I saw this. How is that going to affect the heating and air conditioning in the building? Is that going to cause us to have to put additional thermostats in or additional forced air registers in each area?
That'll all be interconnected, so there'll be no need for any additional HVAC work.
So we were going to have that and still have the walls not get to the ceiling?
Correct. So there'll be a drop ceiling, and above that, then those walls will go to the ceiling. So below the drop ceiling then is where the HVAC is, not above it, if that makes sense.
I thought the walls had to go all the way up by code.
So why? So and I'm inclined to approve this, but why wasn't that considered at first?
Essentially budget. We wanted to see where we were at within the budget, and if we could put it in the budget, we would, and if we couldn't, we wouldn't.
So this is within our max, this is already accounted for, it's within our maximum guaranteed, you're just into the contingency right now?
That's correct. Yep.
So how much will this leave in the contingency? Not that you would know that.
No, we do know that. So we include that in our reporting here. The new contingency total that's left after this is $144,767.80.
Well, it's getting kind of narrow considering where we're at.
It's getting narrow. We're getting closer to the project. That was one of the conversations that we had with the project manager prior to bringing this forward, was how comfortable he felt knowing what the critical path items were still left to be completed. There is probably one item left that he thinks is about half of that contingency, but he's not foreseeing any other items that will likely come forward over the next 4 months.
You don't have a crystal ball, but at this point, with what you've just told me, you see finishing these with a very slim margin of $70,000 under estimate.
That is correct. Yep. The goal is to get this as close to the budget as possible.
I'm fine staying low on it, but
well, but as we've talked about, the way that this budget was originally drafted, construction manager at risk. So this is to make sure that as we're working through items, we're not incentivizing the construction manager to give an inferior product along the way to save dollars.
well, thank you for the update, and it sounds like we're starting to get close to what we have to spend on it. No other comments.
Hearing no other comments, I'll call the roll. Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Chief. The next item tonight will be presented by Assistant Administrator Mays.
I was going to say, I'm surprised there wasn't any conversation about the greatest ROI we have on TIFs.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that was really a brown nose, yes.
That was really bad, Chief.
I found it quite refreshing. Thank you.
Smile.
Spelled it wrong. It's not TIF.
I'm going to go ahead and say that the guy that makes a joke that could be one day trying to save my life is a good joke.
Okay, my legislation for this evening, board, is a motion authorizing Township Administrator to execute an agreement with D.R. Horton for snow and ice removal of Crosley Meadows subdivision. This information can be found on page 46 of your agenda packet. The developer of the Crosley Meadows subdivision has requested that the township remove snow and ice on the unaccepted streets for the subdivision that they are constructing. The attached contract would compensate the township at a rate of 10 cents per lineal foot for this subdivision in particular. That is 1,786 linear feet. This will be for each snow event. In prior years, the township has executed similar contracts for subdivisions that were under construction, so we're on par with how we normally operate in this area. Staff recommendation is an adoption and approval of the motion.
And I'll qualify that there will likely be more of these for some of our other subdivisions that are still in development at the next trustee meeting as well.
The Crossing Meadows is the one over Pippin and Banning, correct?
That's correct, yep.
They're almost completed out of there. I mean,
They're
they're
close.
far in there,
And
yeah.
I'll go ahead and motion to get it to the floor, because
Sorry.
I have another question. I motion that we authorize the administrator to execute an agreement with D.R. Horton for snow and ice removal of Crosley Meadows subdivision.
I'll second.
And it just seems like that's a low number for what we're doing. Because I know we have an hourly cost for our employees and fuel and salt, and 1,700, it's what, about five and a half football fields of length by 10 feet wide. That seems like a pretty low number.
I can do some benchmarking with other
Well,
communities
when
that-
we originally first brought these forward, I think it was 2.5, 3 years ago, we did do some benchmarking. Our rate that we are charging is higher than all of the other townships. In fact, we got pushback from the developers because our rate was, in their opinion, too high. However, we left it at that amount because we were trying to recoup
That's
as much
fine.
as possible.
I mean, if they used a vendor like any large commercial development like Walmart or something, it would be a lot more than that. I realize these people are ultimately going to be residents here. That part of that particular location, I know that the line between Springfield Township and Colerain Township is part of that subdivision in Springfield Township, part of it in
I think it's on
Cincinnati.
the other side. Doesn't North College Hill
So
start?
the streets that we're pushing snow on, they are within
Yes.
Colerain Township, because I just think there's a point where you're going down the road and all of a sudden you're in Springfield
I think on-
Township.
Yeah,
that's
so
on the
going
other
down
side of it.
Pippin, I think what Kathy's trying to say is if you're going south on Pippin, on the left-hand side is where a lot of the Springfield Township kind of ebbs and flows with Colerain, but on the right-hand side is almost holistically Colerain. And then right past this subdivision is where you have that small section of the township that was annexed. I think to date, that's maybe the only section of the original Colerain that has been annexed. So, but it is outside, or this contract area would be fully within Colerain limits, and we would be responsible for the full road once it's completed.
That would be on the same route as whoever's pushing back on Memory and Acre and Burnside and all those
That's correct, yep.
streets.
So you got when I was going like this, it was on the left side. I was doing my.
Okay,
motion.
I don't have any other questions. That just sounds like a low number if they had to pay a commercial company to do it.
Well, why don't we, since we seem like we're going to have a lot more coming, can we look at that number for future? Or since we've already established a price, do we have to stick with that?
We can look at that number. If you all wanted to offer a different number, we could always go back to them and say, look, the board has decided that they want to do a higher dollar per
In
lineal
November,
foot.
I would tend to move forward with
Yeah.
this, but I think to Matt's point, we need to see what it would, what a commercial snow pusher would charge for that.
Or what the other townships do in fact charge. Dan's right in that ultimately they will be residents. I mean, I don't think it's necessary to make a profit, but I don't think it's necessary to absorb a loss either.
And I'd imagine probably part of the delta between what a commercial would charge versus what we would charge is the mobilization cost to get to the site, just because we're already there as we're plowing through the other streets that are nearby.
No other comments from me.
All right, Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, board.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next two items will be presented by Development Director David Miller.
Welcome back.
Cotter. Earlier, Chief Cordy had a recommendation for board appointment to CURB, and so I'm bringing forward similar motions to replace members to our Board of Zoning Appeals and our Zoning Commission. Our first one is BZA, and recommendation, the motion is to add Tracy Smith as an alternate to BZA, and that would be a 2-year term through 12/31/26.
I'll motion to appoint Tracy Smith to the Zoning Board of Appeals as the alternate board member for a 2-year term, which will expire December 31st, 2026.
I'll second.
I do not know this person. I guess this is someone you've interviewed. And
I meant to mention that
qualified to do it.
we did have an announcement that went out in a variety of ways, solicited resumes, and had some really good folks that just wanted to be a part. They live here. They wanted to
And my
help
point is
anybody they could.
that this is not that keeps them very independent of me as a trustee, that
Right.
I don't know them, and
Yeah.
somebody that I might end up overturning their decision someday, and let's just.
We were encouraged.
It's nobody I know.
Right. We
so.
were encouraged by the pool that we had to choose from, and came with 2 great submissions to you. And this is the first for Board of Zoning Appeals.
No other comments.
Trustee Orich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Next recommendation, motion to appoint Dennis Wander to the Zoning Commission. Similar 2-year term expiring 12/31/26 to the alternate position. There are 5 permanent members, 2 alternates. We brief all 5, and this is both boards, brief all 7 of them every meeting. And the alternates are generally expected to show, unless we're notified ahead of time, but they are eligible to be seated as a permanent member to hear the cases that are before them. And so we appreciate whether they're permanent or alternate members.
I motion that we would appoint to the Zoning Commission Dennis Wonder for a 2-year term, which will expire December 31st of 26.
I'll second that.
And my comments would be the same as with the previous appointment.
Hearing no other comments, I'll call the roll. Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board. The next item will be presented by Assistant Administrator McElravy.
Good evening once again.
Good evening.
The next item on the agenda it begins on page 51 of your board packet. This resolution would authorize the adoption of amended appropriations in 3 funds. The first is an increase in appropriations of $115,923 in the Law Enforcement Trust Fund. The purpose of this increase is to be able to shift expenses from the police fund into the law enforcement trust fund and extend the capacity of the police fund as long as possible. We're looking at every measure that we can take to do that. The second increase in appropriations is in Fund 2901, which is one of our TIFs. It's the TIF for the Kroger project on Springdale. That is to increase appropriations by $53,900 to prepare for the December debt service payment. The good news on this TIF is that it is outperforming expectations, and therefore the amount that we remit to retire the principal component of the debt accelerates, and that means that there'll be TIF capacity in the future years that will be available for our use rather than servicing debt. The third increase in appropriations is in Fund 2905. This is the TIF for the Northridge project, and that is to increase appropriations by $815. Again, this is for a December payment that is coming due. This is a reimbursement to the developer for public improvements that the development team made on the project site. And again, this increase is necessary is because the TIF outperformed expectations. Staff recommendation is adoption of the resolution.
Awesome.
Motion, we adopt a resolution authorizing the adoption of amended appropriations as described.
I'll second.
Thank you for your work on it.
It's good to hear those numbers. Outperforming like it.
Hearing no other comments, I'll call the roll. Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you.
And the next item is a motion authorizing the Township Administrator to execute a MOU with Perry and Associates. This is for the 2023 to 2028 audits. So over a course of time, the State Auditor's Office will oscillate back and forth between them conducting our township audits and them going through a process to hire an outside firm to conduct our audits. We are now in a window where the next 6 years worth of financial years are going to be audited by an outside agency. In this case, the state auditor went through a competitive bidding process, and at the end of that process, they have recommended Perry and Associates to be selected to be our auditing firm for fiscal years 2023 through 2028, and I would recommend adoption of the motion.
I motion we authorize the Township Administrator to execute a memorandum of understanding with Perry and Associates for the 2023, which is the audit of last year, through 2028 township audits. And that 23 audit will, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'll second.
That 23 audit would be the one that starts next year because we're generally about a year and a half to 2
So
years.
they typically do
arrears.
2 years at one time, so next year they will be auditing 23 and 24, and then
Correct.
2 years later,
Right.
yep, 25, 26.
No other comments.
I think we had a motion and a second, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Hearing no other comments, I will call the question. Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The next item is a motion to set the organizational meeting for January 7th, 2025 at 6 p.m. at 4200 Springdale Road. As a reminder, this is something that we are required to do at the start of the year to organize our board and our operations. And I would recommend adoption of the motion.
I motion we set an organizational meeting for this Board of Trustees on January 7th, 2025 at 6 p.m. at 4200 Springdale Road.
That I'll second.
That is a Tuesday.
That is a
Yeah, it's
Tuesday.
Tuesday. It's the first Tuesday of the month. I just looking it up. Yes.
And so by our next meeting, you'll have a schedule of meetings for us for 25.
We typically adopt that actually at the organizational meeting, so this is just setting that first
Something
one.
out to us in advance to.
Yep.
Okay. No other comments.
Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. Next item will be presented by Assistant Administrator Mays.
Ooh, that's the Orange Bowl, by the way.
I don't know anybody that's going.
I guess we'll still go with it.
Oh, understand that.
That's on your calendar. Orange Bowl.
Okay, Board, thank you for your attention. The item that I'm presenting for legislation actually is a consideration. It's a first reading of the resolution for adopting the new policy book. This information can be found on page 61 of your agenda packets. As we mentioned in our special meeting on October 22nd, staff had reviewed throughout the year all of our current policy and made recommendations for consideration for the board with those updates. Outside of grammatical or typographical errors, we did present a few new policies, recommendations to change existing policies, and other policy items that were discussed. I open the floor for the board in this first reading to discuss that further.
And can you highlight some of the changes? I know you and I have had
Yep,
a conversation.
Yep, and on page 61, it kind of, if we want to all flip to that page, we do have a highlighted 3-page version of what that conversation or presentation was about on October 22nd. So,
What I think would be extremely helpful is if, in looking through that bulleted list that starts on page 61 of the agenda packet, if there is clear direction on whether or not any of these bullets should remain in the final policy version up until we get down lower into the document around, where would you say that line is? Essentially policy 121.
Mine starts on page 87. Is your?
There were some items we discussed, such as funeral leave and that type of thing.
Yeah, so there are a number of items. I think that a lot of these, first of all, we have to, I think, consider the financial situation in the township. I think this is a good aspirational list. I think I'm inclined to want to, I think the funeral leave policy is something that we definitely should have. I think that we need to show support for employees at the time when they're facing their worst, probably the worst days that they're going to face. I think some of the others, again, are aspirational that we could work out on as we improve the financial situation of the township. But right now, I think I'm more of in a save money kind of situation where I don't want to add continued costs, and I know that that's asking a large sacrifice. But at this point, I think that that's in the best interest of long term of the township.
Other
and I'm one vote, so
feedback or questions? I think, Dan, you had mentioned potentially a question on one of the policies.
Well, and just those things we talked about for the non I don't want to say non-organized, but the unaffiliated employees, I would, favor updating the funeral policy for immediate family members, but beyond that, I would concur with Matt that some of these other things are costs that I'm just not prepared to absorb at this time.
As far as the policies that are non-financial based, that's important to know as well where you're.
I'm okay with the non-financial based and the funeral.
All of those recommendations
Yes,
are
I mean,
non-financially based. Okay.
because I think those are all, like I said, we're comparing, giving out the, how do we say that?
And it continues to evolve just through.
Right, yeah.
And I think in those situations, it's important to defer to administration because you deal with those situations on a day-to-day basis. That's not to say that somebody might encounter something in one of those situations, and I call up Mr. Weckback and say, look, does this, Mr. Mills used to always say, what do you want this to look like in practice? And I'd have an idea, and he goes, well, this is how I think it'll look. And I'm like, I don't want it to look like that at all. Your intended outcome doesn't become, the policy outcome is not what you intend. And we may encounter that, and it's fine. And we've done that in other years where we've gone back and revised the revision. I mean, the bottom line is that you can't face every possible scenario. And I'm thinking back to one of the years I taught that who would have ever, and that was probably maybe 15, 20 years ago, who would have ever thought that you needed a rule in the rule book that said that kids couldn't have shoes that turned into roller skates. And that happened one year, and it was a huge problem. And I'm like, who could ever guess this would come about and be an issue? By the way, that's why the U.S. Constitution is such a beautiful document. It's less than 8,000 words. And our book is 300 pages, and the U.S. Constitution covers the entire country in 8,000 words and 27 amendments.
It's if you don't count legal briefs that interpret them.
Oh, come on, man. You got to go there with that. I mean,
During the my trustee comments, that was I've been contacted by a trustee from another township that has not really ever developed a policy book, and that's what I wanted to talk to you about. This has evolved over a number of years, and it's been greatly improved in the last 6 or 7 years. But it's just something we need to keep up with, and so I appreciate the work that you've put into it and the other staff members. But so yeah, this is just first look.
And I think that gives us the direction that we need. So if there are no other comments, I don't believe there are any action items at this time on this item.
And with the exception of the funeral policy, any of the money items, that's for a future day.
At the next meeting, I will present a full updated document without any items in there that are financial implications for the township.
And the final look is not going to have redlined. It's going to be a clean cut version, so it'll be ready to go, and staff will be able to digest it for the start of the year.
And I would encourage anybody to hear or watching on TV, this is very accessible on our website. It's where the three of us are getting it from right now, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board. The last item of new business is a discussion on sort of Metro. This was requested by Trustee Wallert, but I understand that you would like to table this
Yeah,
item.
I think I'd like to table this because I think that the communication portal has been opened and we have talks ongoing with some of the issues with sort of Metro, and let's let those develop before.
Did they hear you last time?
They must have heard somebody.
They must have heard somebody. Okay.
Somebody heard me, or heard Mr. Wackback, or heard, yeah.
All right. Well, with that, the last items on the agenda are consent items, which I'll read into the record before requesting adoption. First is a donation acceptance from the Haverkamp Foundation in the amount of $19,750. I know we are all very appreciative of that. Contract with Duke Energy. This is for the gas installation at Station 26 for $0. Contract with Duke Energy for the gas installation at Station 102 for $0. And a contract with Axon for free redaction software trial for $0. And I would recommend adoption of all consent items.
A motion that we adopt the consent items as described by Mr. Weckbach.
And I'll second. I want to personally thank the Haverkamp Foundation for all the wonderful donation of the dog and training for Colerain Township and our
That
police.
is quite a thing, isn't
And
it?
his family, I think, were once residents of Colerain Township.
They used to live off,
Yeah.
yeah. I showed their house and they bought my listing.
With that, I will call the roll. Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Wallert?
Yes.
I have no fiscal office report, and I do not believe there is a need for executive session.
I'll just point out, if I could, that I panicked unnecessarily. The Orange Bowl is actually January 9th, so those watching on TV, you can relax.
You know, Ned goes like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
He's relieved. Oh, my goodness.
And I would like to point out that Jeff Baker was here at the beginning of the
Yeah,
meeting.
he's
and
very ill.
He had to leave, but he was here this evening early.
He's got, I hope I didn't get him sick.
So I motion that we would go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 8:42 p.m.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Actually, if I could cut in, I'm just seeing a note from Jeff. If it would be okay to have an approval of minutes for the 10/22/24 special meeting.
He did email those to us, yes.
Sorry, I missed that one. If you all would entertain that motion.
Those were.
We approved the minutes for the regular meeting.
Yeah.
I don't believe we approved the minutes for those.
I'll motion to approve the minutes for the special meeting on October 24th. It's been provided in our board packet.
22nd.
22nd, sorry.
I'll second.
Yes, and that was item 5 on our agenda at the beginning of the meeting. Just so what people know it was on the agenda.
This is why I'm not the fiscal officer.
Okay.
Okay.
Trustee,
No other comments from me. Did you want to call the roll on that?
Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Wallert?
Yes.
And I do believe we had a motion for adjournment, and I will
I'll
second that.
I'll re-motion
Okay,
to adjourn the
okay,
meeting.
okay. Go ahead.
A motion that we
Oh,
adjourn the
okay,
meeting
nice.
at 8:42 p.m.
I'll second. Okay, meeting adjourned at 8:40.
Ulrich.
Oh, we got that last roll call.
Trustee Ulrich?
Yes.
Trustee Unger?
Yes.
Trustee Wallert?
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned at 8:43.